Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to do a recap of everything that has happened really since the point of like when people most likely stopped watching The Walking Dead. Because I saw a one of my like favorite YouTubers of all time, Angry Joe. I saw that they posted a video and they were reacting to The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live trailer, and they were discussing The Walking Dead and all that. And there seemed to be like some interest in it. You know, the trailer looked good enough where I know Angry Joe was like, you know, I'm kind of interested in this. I kind of want to check it out. And I know there was a lot of talk about just like, you know, I don't know if I care too much about these characters. You know, it's just been so long, and I don't really care. And I imagine that that's the reason why a lot of people stopped watching. Because I mean, I get it. Like, it's a long running series. It's sort of the same thing with Marvel for me. You know, like I watched it for so long, and then after Endgame, there's just hasn't really been anything there where I've been like, I don't really care. Now with The Walking Dead, it's different because I love horror movies. I love horror TV shows. So obviously I'm more like, personally, I'm more inclined to watch that over, you know, like superhero movies and stuff like that. You know, everyone has their own personal preference. But after watching that video, I was like, you know what? I do kind of want to do a video talking about, you know, what has happened, because that was the one thing that it seemed like, and it seems like for a lot of people in general, that like coming back to watch the show, it's like, what has happened? And it's not only going back to watch, like, you know, the last, because when Glenn died, that's mostly when people stopped watching, but that was like season 7. So there was season 7. So it was all of season 7. And then there was season 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then there's also the World Beyond spinoff. There's Fear the Walking Dead. And that doesn't really matter too much. Like, a lot of these spinoffs don't really matter. So I'm going to kind of brush over a lot of it here in this video and explain it really quick, because there's some connections here and there to the Civic Republic military and like what's happening on the Rick and Michonne show now. But yeah, I want to recap everything so that people know generally what the story is and sort of what to expect going into this show here. So before we go any further, obviously, if you do want more Walking Dead content like this, I'll be doing reviews, breakdowns of every single episode, trailer breakdowns whenever we learn new news, anything like that. Definitely make sure to hit subscribe. Now, I guess I should start off with saying that, you know, in terms of Fear the Walking Dead, I would just ignore that entirely. It does end in a very interesting way in terms of what has happened with Morgan, but I'll address that here in this video. Besides that one aspect to it, I would say that you could pretty much ignore Fear the Walking Dead. Madison and Alicia went back to Los Angeles, and yeah, that's pretty much that story. I guess there is Dwight and Sherry. They were a part of The Walking Dead season like 6 and 7 and season 8. They're going back to the sanctuary, so there is that. So there's a possibility that we could see Dwight and Negan reunite at some point in The Walking Dead Dead City season 2 or season 3. So that would be cool, because obviously they haven't seen each other since the All Out War arc, right? So it's been a very long time. A lot of stuff has happened, and it would be interesting to see, you know, just sort of where things are in general, because Negan has changed overall, but lately he hasn't really changed. There was a period where he was changing a little bit, but I think that side to him is always there, as we saw in Dead City, right? Now, the Ones Who Live story, it's not like this story just came out of nowhere and they're just making a spinoff for the sake of making a spinoff. Like, I would say Scott Gimple, who is sort of the, you know, the Kevin Feige of this entire universe, he's done a really great job at like crafting everything together. The only thing that felt very separate was literally Tales of the Walking Dead. Or Tales from the Walking Dead, Tales of the Walking Dead, whatever. Like, that felt very separate, because it kind of was. There were some connections. We had Alpha. There was some stuff that was, you know, somewhat connected, but fans overall don't really like that show too much. That's why I just literally just ignore that show. But The Ones Who Live is a story that's been in the making since, I would say, obviously season 7 of The Walking Dead, you know, right around the time of Glenn's death, which is funny because that's when everyone tuned out. So that's why I think a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what's going on right now, right? I know some people know stuff about Rick's death and what happened there, but this is kind of when the story started. Though I will say, in the trailer for The Ones Who Live, we do see the destruction of Atlanta. That was shown in season, I think it was season 2 of The Walking Dead. We see Shane and Laurie reacting to all of it, right? Because if you remember in the very first season of The Walking Dead, basically when the apocalypse first started, they all lived outside of Atlanta. And so they figured if we can go to Atlanta, maybe there'd be like shelters, this and that, and we can just sort of, you know, we can get help from the city. So everyone was traveling to the city, and then obviously you see this, the destruction of Atlanta, and it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, well, that's insane to see. Like, I guess the world really is ending right now, and this trailer is basically, it seems like it, we'll have to watch it to see, but this trailer is basically confirming that was the Civic Republic military, the CRM. The group that Rick was taken to, which, by the way, the Civic Republic military is parts of the old US government. It formed very early on right when the apocalypse started. I mean, it could have started potentially before the apocalypse. That's a bunch of other things that the show could eventually get into, but it seems like they were responsible for that, and they're like retroactively connecting it to that scene. So that wasn't the plan, obviously, when Frank Darabont made season 1 and 2, like when all that was written. But it's nice, I think, to make that connection because it sort of makes everything matter here. And also, if you remember in the very first episode of The Walking Dead, Rick does see a helicopter in the air sort of flying by, and there's been no explanation for it. He just sort of hears it, looks up in the air, and that was basically it. So I imagine that was probably a CRM helicopter. Glenn's death turned everyone away, but after his death, there was an all-out war that saw Carl's death and the eventual arrest of Negan. Carl's death changed Rick dramatically, and instead of wanting Negan dead, he decided to keep him alive because it was what Carl wanted Rick to do. Like, he wanted him to do something different in this world where there's just always constant death. You have to do something that is just basically something that people would do in the real world that, you know, kind of changes just how bad their world is right now. And it was something that Rick struggled with because he didn't want to keep Negan alive, but he was like, you know what, I'll do this for Carl, like anything for Carl, and I can kind of see what he's saying. And one note here is that obviously during the war, Jadis, a character who is going to be in the Ones Who Live, was introduced. So we would see these 3 circles everywhere. And, you know, during this time, it was always sort of like, what's happening here? What does this mean? Like, now we're finally getting to know what it means. But like back then, it was like, what is all of this, right? And during the war arc, Rick saw a helicopter at one point before encountering Jadis. Negan also saw the helicopters, and in this scene specifically with him, Jadis was actually trying to trade him away to the helicopter people, obviously the CRM. Back then we called them the helicopter people. But Negan does escape, and it just kind of remained a mystery. The war ends, and a year and a half goes by, and we see Rick managing all of these communities now, right? Like, there's the Sanctuary, the Kingdom, the Hilltop, Alexandria. He's sort of a legend at this point. He's a legend to all these communities because he's the man that stopped Negan. He's the man that ended the war. But since he kept Negan alive, it caused a rift between people. So you had Maggie and Daryl versus Rick and Michonne, basically. So Rick's final episodes on the show really focused on him trying to get everyone to work together. They worked on this bridge because that bridge would help supplies go to the Sanctuary, a community that was really, really struggling to really keep their resources there. That's a big reason why Negan kept taking people's stuff, right? Is because they couldn't really manage things on their own from that place. And so Rick, you know, with the help of everyone else, they decided to create this bridge here. Maggie was very upset with this. You know, Maggie didn't want to help at all, but obviously the Hilltop was one of the places, like out of all those communities, the Hilltop had the most resources, but Maggie didn't want to help, Daryl didn't want to help, and so this caused her and Daryl over those like couple of episodes to create a plan of, we got to get Rick alone, and then Maggie is going to obviously go to Alexandria and basically kill Negan. A bunch of stuff happens there. There's a whole encounter there. Daryl takes Rick away, and then we get this really crazy heart-to-heart scene between the two, which is their last scenes together ever on The Walking Dead. Rick is forced to lead a herd of walkers away because there's a herd of walkers at this time. It's sort of like introduced throughout. And so, yeah, it happens here. And Rick, obviously freaking out about this, gets wounded, like severely wounded throughout all of this, and ends up leading them to that very bridge that he fought so hard to create, because that bridge was going to really mean something to the new world and to everything that they were creating there. And so he sacrificed himself to save all the communities. And at this point, you know, everyone obviously was trying to help out Rick because he was talking on the walkie-talkie. He was like telling people where the walkers were going. Daryl, you know, ran to go meet people, and they were all like, well, we need to go and help Rick. Like, we gotta, you know, deal with this. And that's where they saw Rick on the bridge, and they saw what he was about to do and freaked out, obviously. And Rick sacrificed himself right there to save all the communities, and obviously ended up a hero. Everyone at this point thought Rick was dead. Secretly, though, in sort of a post-credit scene, it's not really, but kind of like a post-credit scene, we do see Jadis, and we saw her this season interacting with the Pacific Republic military, like the helicopter people. It was all very mysterious, but they were actually coming to pick Jadis up, and I believe she was going to give Gabriel away because she said that she had an A, but when she sees Rick actually sort of washed up on the shore, she's like, I have a B. I never had an A, I had a B. And so the helicopter lands and picks Rick and Jadis up, and they leave. They're never to be seen from again. Basically, obviously until now, which is just so exciting because it's been years since this moment has happened. The show did a big time jump at this point. So 6 years went by, And Daryl kept looking for Rick. He believed he was still out there because there was no body out there. Like there was nothing there. So he has to be alive, right? There was absolutely nothing. Michonne on a random trip actually finds Rick's boots and a phone with a picture of herself and her daughter Judith there, which obviously is confirmation that Rick did not die on that bridge, because there's no way this could be over here if he died on the bridge. So Rick could still be out there. He didn't die on that bridge. And so she obviously has to find him, right? And thus we get Michonne's exit from the show. She tells her daughter Judith and son RJ, which by the way, Rick doesn't know that he has a son RJ because Michonne was pregnant or he apparently died. And so he never got to find out. But yeah, so that's going to be an insane scene when he actually does find that out. But yeah, she tells Judith and RJ that she thinks that she could find him and that she's going to go and try. And so it's a really sad scene because obviously it's a mother saying goodbye to her kids. And it's just one of those things where it's just a heartbreaking scene in general, right? But a year or two goes by, and I'm not going to explain the entirety of the arc at that point, during season, this happened at the end of season 10. And then season 11 happens. There was the end of the Whisperer arc and the Commonwealth arc. But basically the whole final season of The Walking Dead happens. And just focusing on the main story beats here at the very ending, Daryl finds out that Rick could be alive. And so Daryl at this point decides to continue to keep looking for Rick and eventually does get into some trouble and ends up in France. Now, I know this seems insane. A lot of people laugh when they're like, wait, what? Daryl in France? There's actually a connection here. So first of all, he got there via a ship, right? Like there's this ship that we eventually learned was going back and forth between France and America. And on this ship, there was actual test subjects. There was walkers that scientists were working on to create variant walkers. And Madame Genet, the new, big villain in France that Daryl is dealing with right now, was creating these walkers. And so obviously traveling from France to America, back and forth, collecting zombies for experiments to turn walkers into weapons, which is just kind of insane. These new variant walkers are just like absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen Daryl Dixon yet, you have to go and watch it. Trust me, it's an incredible show. And so there seems to be a connection between Madame Genet, the leader of the villain group in France creating these variant walkers, and the Civic Republic military, the group that Rick is with, who during World Beyond, they were actually trying to find a cure. So there's been some stuff that Scott Gimple has been planning out here. There seems to be a connection overall with what's going on. Now, with Dead City, that show, I would say, is sort of disconnected to a lot of this here. Again, we could get Dwight on that show. A lot of stuff could be exciting. They could connect it eventually, but Maggie and Negan's story as of now isn't really connected to a lot of what's been happening in The Ones Who Live and Daryl Dixon. It's sort of separate. It is a really great story, and I would definitely recommend checking it out, but I would say that it's a little, as of now anyways, it seems like it is completely separate from what's going on there. And I will say, like, these spinoffs, because that's one thing that people always say, well, The Walking Dead has all these spinoffs, and they're always like, they're bad. These new spinoffs have not been bad. Dead City, Daryl Dixon, and The Ones Who Live, the budget has been increased so much, and the writing has been absolutely amazing. Like, do not compare this to Fear the Walking Dead, World Beyond, Tales of the Walking Dead. Like, don't compare it to those spinoffs. Like, the quality for these and the writing is so much better. I would even say that the quality in the writing is way better than what we really got in The Walking Dead over the last, couple of years. And so now we see Michonne and Rick all of these years later. Michonne is still looking for Rick, but, she's getting very, very close at this point. We do see in the trailer that she does encounter the CRM, the group that took Rick away. And what it seems like in the trailer is that the CRM is using yellow gas that causes people, I guess, to die, but turn very slowly into walkers. So basically, the Civic Republic military seems to want to kill and wipe out people, but not have them turn to walkers right away. There's a lot of mystery here, though, I'll say. We don't really know what's really happening. The main villain, which is the big bad of the Walking Dead universe, he's basically the Thanos of all of this, Major General Beale. There's more there for sure. There's a lot of questions a lot of us have on what the CRM are doing exactly. Is it a power thing? There's some cure stuff. It seems like there's variants in France. There's connections there to America. So you can kind of see where all of it's going. There seems to be this bigger plan overall with some of the older governments and stuff. But it's interesting just because Rick and Michonne and Daryl and all of them, they're about to find out all these crazy secrets and stuff. And I think that, having this all connected to the very beginning, I think it's incredible. Who knows? Maybe the zombie apocalypse was literally created. It could have started because of what these big entities were doing, right? It seems like they were definitely aware of what was happening before people actually knew. It seems like it anyways. But yeah, and so in terms of Rick, he's been living in this place now for almost 10 years. trying to get back to his family, forced to kill zombies, and then eventually rises in ranks to become a CRM soldier, it seems like. This soldier right here is Rick. There's a lot of people, debating on, like, is it someone else, this and that. It's Rick. Like, if you want more confirmation, first of all, you can easily, like, up the brightness and you can tell it's Andrew Lincoln. But also, if you just zoom into this one shot right here, you actually do see Rick right there. So, yeah, that's Rick there. This group right here that Rick is a part of at this point is an elite corps of Major General Beals, and they're basically sent to do, like, the very top secret stuff, the really bad stuff that the general public can't know about. So, I have a lot of questions there. Like, has Rick been doing really insane stuff that he's just obviously forced to do? Because he can't leave, right? If he went back to Alexandria, the CRM knows everything about him. Jadis also is in a very high position now at the CRM because she traded Rick away. And what Jadis was doing back then was, if you're an A, you're a test subject. If you're a B, you could become a leader or at least a very valuable person to their community. The Civic Republic has like 250,000 people there. The Civic Republic seems fine. The military seems to be very, very corrupt. So Jadis obviously trading Rick, who eventually is going to be a very, very important person here, obviously got a lot more power and stuff within this community because of, just how valuable Rick was to the Civic Republic military. So she's in a very high position here. I imagine she told them everything about Alexandria and everything there. So Rick can't just leave. He does try to escape once. He can't just leave, though, because obviously they'll just wipe them all out. They can use that yellow gas and all that. So Rick at this point is forced to stay here, and that is sort of where we're at going into the show, which is premiering very soon. So yeah, we'll have to see where this goes. I'm hoping that it's going to get a season 2 because there seems to be a bigger arc here. Because one quick note, Fear the Walking Dead ends with all the characters kind of have their own whatever goodbye, but Morgan's story ends with him saying, I'm going to go out there and search for Rick. Like, he doesn't know what happened to Rick, obviously, because he left the show beforehand, but the first place he's going to go back to is Alexandria. Like, he's walking back there. He's going to see if Rick is there. And then if Rick's not there, he's going to be like, well, where is he? So obviously he wants to find Rick, right? So I think it would be really incredible because first of all, he's not in the trailer. It would be cool if this show ended on a cliffhanger where we saw Morgan at the very end. Like, will we see Rick and Morgan reunite after years apart? That's why I want a season 2. I want them to do like 2 or 3 seasons of The Ones Who Live, and the 3rd season to really, have everyone come together, really just focus on all of our characters reuniting and sort of defeating the Civic Republic military or Madame Janae's group and just stopping all the variant walkers. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see where they're going overall, but you can kind of see generally where things are going, right? Like, they're sort of hyping up a very big, like, endgame style event, or at least that kind of seems to be the overall direction as of now. So this is my recap. I tried to explain it in as much detail as I can, but also sort of, not rambling as much, but I do apologize if I was rambling. So that's generally what to know. Obviously, when each episode does come out, I will explain everything that's been happening in the episode. So if you are new to The Walking Dead, you're getting back into The Walking Dead, definitely make sure to be a subscriber. I'll explain everything that's been happening. And yeah, I really would recommend going back to check out Daryl Dixon and Dead City as well. Honestly, Dead City is a really incredible show. But post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.